Today, we're shooting a horror film on the Canon C70. There are a couple of things that make this an ideal camera for this style of run-and-gun filmmaking, where you're shooting with a small crew, on location, and you need to get a lot of shots in a short amount of time and still produce a cinematic image. Its small size and compact ergonomics, combined with outstanding battery life and long record times, allow a single operator to get a wide variety of shots, move quickly, and react to changes in a way that would be difficult for a larger, more complex camera setup. For the first scene, the actor's arrival at the house, I mounted the camera on a gimbal. This made moving shots and low-angle shots much easier to get, but it also adds a degree of movement to locked-off shots like this car scene. I was using the C70 screen as a reference monitor to gauge exposure and monitor the C-Log2 color space with scopes and get maximum dynamic range. I then attached an external monitor to display a lookup table I had previously created in Resolve. This setup allows me to see what the camera is capturing and what the final image is going to look like. Even though we were shooting in daylight, I wanted the scene to be on the darker side, but I didn't want to shoot dark. If you expose the entire shot in the lower 50% of the waveform, you're only using half of your sensor's dynamic range. I've found it's better to expose these type of scenes normally, with your skin tone a stop above middle gray and your highlights protected, and then grade them down in post. Using just the gimbal and natural light, we were able to cover off 7 or 8 different shots very quickly, which gives a ton of options in the edit. Once the actor was actually in the house, I changed from the gimbal to handheld to give the shots a more tense feeling while still using the camera's inbuilt stabilization for smooth movement. The basement is supposed to feel claustrophobic and is a very small space, probably too small for a normal cinema camera, but the C70 really shines. It can be placed in corners and on the ground, held at angles without operator fatigue because of its compact size and low weight. I was shooting with the focal reducer and using a very fast 50mm f1.4 lens, and I was able to get great exposure in almost total darkness. This also helped with performance because it's easier to act like you're in a dark basement when you really are in a dark basement, not one that's lit up like a Christmas tree. Using the shallow focus of the lens and punching in on the sensor to make the depth of field even smaller, I was able to use the camera's autofocus to slowly pull focus between the actor and the person behind her. For the final part of the action, I shot this chase scene in a variety of ways so it could be cut together dynamically. I first pre-visualized the shot on computer so I knew which angles would cut and which wouldn't. I then attached the C70 on the gimbal to a zip line, anchoring it at 2 points so that it wouldn't twist. This is another example of the C70's versatility and how many ways it can be used. About halfway through the chase scene, it began raining. Normally, this would have brought the shoot to a halt, but because both the C70 and the lenses we were using were weather sealed, we were able to carry on and get some fantastic footage with extra atmosphere. Even with the fog machine and an aggressive schedule, the autofocus held up really well, tracking the actress through a variety of situations that even a professional focus puller would have had problems with. We were able to shoot a 4-minute scene that had suspense, action, and a chase in the rain in just over 6 hours with a 2-person crew using mostly natural and practical light. If you extrapolate this into an entire feature, it would translate into a 12-day shoot. If you have a script, the talent, and the locations, tools like the Canon C70 and fast autofocus lenses, you can make the dream of the sub $10,000 feature film a reality. You don't need to spend years raising money. You don't need to have someone else approve of your script. These tools open the door for a whole new generation of independent filmmakers to realize their vision without compromise. All they need is the right equipment, to know how to use it, and the willingness to begin.